On a silent October night in 2025, the horizon of Mars glowed faintly red until a sudden flash of green light sliced through the darkness. It lasted less than a second, but it was bright enough to be captured by a rover's camera millions of miles away. Scientists expected a meteor or a cosmic ray, yet the streak moved too straight, too precise, as if it had a purpose. When data reached Earth, NASA made no announcement, no statement, no image, nothing. But one person noticed. Hidden among thousands of frames, a single thin line matched the predicted path of an interstellar visitor known as 3I Atlas. That faint trace, nearly invisible, would soon shake the walls of science itself. Something had crossed Mars's sky, and no one could explain it. What kind of object glows green in a world without life, and why was NASA completely silent? His name was Stefan Burns, a quiet geophysicist from New Zealand who never worked for NASA or any major observatory. He spent his nights studying open-source data from space missions, believing that science should belong to everyone. When Perseverance's raw footage was uploaded, he noticed something strange. One frame contained a thin, emerald line that didn't belong. Most people would have ignored it, but Burns was different. He began a personal investigation. Using star maps, timing logs, and mathematical models, he recalibrated every image himself. What he found was astonishing. The light aligned perfectly with the projected path of an interstellar object named 3I Atlas. No noise, no error, just a straight track cutting across Mars's night sky. Instead of keeping it secret, Burns did something no agency would dare. He released everything online: the images, the code, the timestamps, inviting the world to see what he saw. Within hours, his discovery spread like wildfire. Thousands of scientists, students, and amateur astronomers downloaded the files to check them for themselves. For the first time, a mystery from beyond our solar system was being studied not in laboratories, but in living rooms and garages across the planet. What started as one man's curiosity became a global investigation, and as people tried to make sense of that strange flash above Mars, one question began to surface. If an unknown object truly crossed the Martian sky, what else could be traveling with it? When Stefan Burns uploaded his findings, the internet reacted like a storm. Within hours, the images and codes spread across every corner of the web. Reddit threads exploded with new theories, astronomy forums lit up with arguments, and YouTube channels rushed to analyze the mysterious green flash. For the first time, a major space mystery wasn't controlled by NASA or any official observatory. It belonged to the people. Amateur astronomers in Brazil, Japan, and France stayed awake all night comparing Burns's data to their own sky charts. Some found patterns that matched the trajectory of 3I Atlas perfectly, while others noticed faint streaks moving beside it. They were tiny, but visible enough to be real. These additional traces sparked one of the boldest theories of the decade. What if the object wasn't alone? A small but growing group online suggested that 3I Atlas might be part of a convoy of smaller bodies traveling together. The idea sounded insane, yet the evidence refused to disappear. On image boards, users highlighted thin parallel lines that appeared in later frames of Burns's data. Some claimed they showed synchronized motion, as if following a hidden rhythm. Others said the streaks might be fragments that broke away naturally, but the symmetry was too precise to ignore. Meanwhile, scientists split into two camps. One side saw potential evidence of something extraordinary. The other dismissed it as a statistical illusion, a case of humans seeing shapes in noise. NASA stayed silent, refusing to confirm or deny anything. That silence only fueled curiosity. As hours turned to days, the public's attention shifted from Burns himself to what his discovery meant for science. For decades, humanity had trusted space agencies as the gatekeepers of truth. Suddenly, that trust was fractured. People realized that discovery no longer needed billion-dollar telescopes. All it took was curiosity and access to data. Students began downloading raw telescope archives, hunting for more anomalies. Some even built homemade tracking software, sharing every result online. Science has become a collective experiment, driven not by institutions, but by ordinary minds connected through the internet. At the same time, tension grew. If an unknown object was being studied worldwide without official supervision, what would NASA do? Was their silence a sign of caution or control? The agency's communication channels stayed quiet, but anonymous leaks began to appear. A few posts claimed that the raw Mars footage had been temporarily removed from NASA's data servers. Others said the rover's camera logs were being reclassified. None of it could be verified, but the timing was suspicious. Media outlets joined the chase. Headlines read, "Citizen scientists outsmart NASA," and "What is the green visitor over Mars?" The story spread beyond astronomy circles into mainstream conversation. Late-night talk shows joked about Harvard losing sleep over a green dot, but beneath the humor was genuine fear. If 3I Atlas really behaved unnaturally, it could rewrite what humanity thought it knew about cosmic life. In private forums, professional astronomers admitted something unusual. The data's consistency was unsettling. The streak's direction, its alignment with the predicted path, and its constant velocity, none of it fit random noise. Several observatories began checking their archives for similar traces, hoping to confirm or debunk Burns's claim. The investigation had grown beyond one man's discovery. It had become a test of scientific transparency. For the first time, people around the world questioned whether the truth about the universe should belong to a few experts or to everyone willing to look. The line between professional science and public curiosity was blurring fast, and as the debate intensified, a new mystery emerged from the data itself, something hidden in the chemistry of that green light that no one could explain yet. What kind of material could glow in a color that defied its own elements? When scientists finally examined the raw data from the Mars orbiters, the first thing they noticed was the light. It wasn't random. The flash that Burns had captured showed a clear green tone that shouldn't exist in that part of space. Normally, this color comes from diatomic carbon, or CO2, molecules of tiny pairs of carbon atoms that glow under ultraviolet radiation. Every comet we've ever studied follows that same rule. But when researchers ran the spectrographic analysis, something astonishing appeared. There was almost no CO2 at all. Instead, the readings showed an atmosphere rich in carbon dioxide and extremely low in water vapor. The combination made no sense. A comet without water is like a fire without heat. It breaks the laws of its own creation. Yet 3I Atlas was glowing as if it carried a hidden power source. To make it stranger, the emission lines revealed an impossible pattern. Nickel was stronger than iron. In nature, that ratio is reversed in nearly every known object. The data suggested that the material inside Atlas had been forged under conditions never seen in our solar system. As results spread, scientists started to panic. Harvard's astrophysics department reviewed the spectra and confirmed the anomaly, but they couldn't explain it. If the chemistry was real, it implied a kind of matter created in an environment far colder, older, and more extreme than anything around our sun. Some even whispered about engineered alloys, materials shaped deliberately rather than born from chaos. The thought was unspoken in official meetings, but it lingered in every lab that analyzed the numbers. NASA, still silent, released no statement. In their absence, independent teams published their interpretations online. One group suggested that ultraviolet scattering could fake the readings, another blamed Mars's thin atmosphere for distortion. Yet none of those models matched the data perfectly. The lines were too sharp, too deliberate, as if each wavelength carried a fingerprint. Some experts said it felt less like chemical noise and more like a code. Meanwhile, new amateur scientists began to experiment. They recreated the light using laboratory gases, comparing how different molecules emitted color under controlled conditions. Nothing matched the shade recorded over Mars. The closest results came from combinations of carbon dioxide and rare nickel compounds, but even that lacked the purity of Atlas's glow. The question deepened. How could a natural object produce light that nature itself couldn't reproduce? Journalists tried to simplify the story for the public, calling it the comet that broke chemistry. Social media turned the phrase viral, but the deeper meaning went far beyond headlines. If 3I Atlas truly contained metallic signatures that violated known ratios, it might not be a comet at all. Its core could be metallic, dense, and precisely structured, something closer to an artifact than a rock. Theories multiplied daily. Some said it was a fragment of a destroyed planet from another star. Others believed it was a vessel built to survive interstellar travel. Inside Harvard, debates stretched into late nights. Professors who had studied comets for decades admitted they had never seen anything like it. "It's like a violin that plays without strings," one researcher said. "You can hear the music, but you can't explain where it comes from." As the mystery grew, only one fact was clear. 3I Atlas refused to behave like anything the universe had shown before. It was breaking the most basic rules of cosmic chemistry. And if something as small as a comet could rewrite science, what else might it be capable of changing? As 3I Atlas moved closer to the Sun, something unexpected happened. Every telescope on Earth suddenly went blind. The object's path placed it directly between the Sun and our planet, and any attempt to observe it risked burning sensitive sensors. For the first time in history, a visitor from beyond the stars was passing through our solar system, and humanity could not see it. But Mars could. From its different orbit, the red planet stood at the perfect angle to observe what Earth could not. Suddenly, 3 robotic observers became our only eyes in the dark: NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the European Space Agency's Trace Gas Orbiter, and Mars Express. Their mission was quickly modified. Instead of studying craters or dust storms, they were now focused on one target: the strange green object moving faster than any comet ever recorded. The operation was one of the most complex imaging campaigns in space history. Engineers at NASA and ESA recalculated every trajectory to make sure the cameras could capture the moment. Each spacecraft had to turn away from its usual position and point its instruments into deep space. The timing had to be perfect. If they clicked the shutter 1 second too early, Atlas would still be invisible. 1 second too late, and it would already be gone. For weeks, the teams worked in silence. Then, on a night when Mars turned its dark side toward the Sun, the first data arrived. A few dozen images were captured, grainy, distorted, but real. Analysts immediately noticed a thin, metallic streak crossing the black background. It wasn't dust. It wasn't a star. It was moving too fast, too precise, like something gliding with purpose. That was the last anyone heard from the mission for 10 days. No new images, no official reports. NASA's public channels went quiet, claiming the data was under technical review, but the timing was suspicious. Online, researchers noticed that the public database where Mars images were stored had temporarily gone offline. Some said it was maintenance. Others believed the agencies were hiding something. The silence turned into fuel for speculation. Forums buzzed with theories. Maybe the spacecraft had captured a reflection too unusual to explain, or maybe the object emitted a form of light that confused the sensors. A few insiders hinted that the raw files contained a glint of silver, something metallic shining against the sunlight. Yet none of it could be confirmed because the images were locked away. When the data finally returned, most of the files looked normal: dust, static, and star patterns. But one photo stood out. In it, a clear, needle-like shape cut through the frame, reflecting light not from the sun, but seemingly from within. Analysts described it as structured, a word rarely used for natural objects. Still, NASA said nothing. The silence had become their shield. The public's frustration turned into fascination. If something truly extraordinary had appeared near Mars, why hide it? What could be so dangerous about a picture? Scientists outside the agency began running simulations, estimating Atlas's position and speed. Some claimed the object maintained perfect stability even under the pressure of solar radiation, a feat no known comet could achieve. In the end, Mars had done what Earth could not. It had watched the unwatchable. But those few frames raised more questions than answers. What if the reason NASA stayed silent wasn't uncertainty, but fear of what they saw? When scientists finally received the full stream of orbital data from Mars, the numbers defied everything they knew about motion in space. 3I Atlas was massive, tens of billions of tons by most estimates, yet it moved through the void with an eerie stillness, unaffected by the forces that should have shaped its path. It had no visible jet, no irregular wobble, no gravitational deviation. It glided as if nothing in the solar system could touch it. In normal physics, comets behave like unstable engines. As they heat up, they eject gas and dust, which act like miniature thrusters that change their trajectory. But 3I Atlas didn't follow that rule. Its orbit remained perfectly steady even while its surface emitted light and gas. To balance those forces, it would need a structure of impossible precision or an internal system capable of adjusting itself in real time. Neither option made sense for a natural object. Researchers began to call it the dead comet, not because it was lifeless, but because it moved with the calm of something that shouldn't move at all. Instruments detected a faint jet pointing toward the sun, the exact opposite direction of every comet ever studied. Normally, solar radiation pushes gas away, forming a tail that extends outward. But Atlas's anti-tail pointed inward, like it was pushing against the solar wind instead of being carried by it. At Harvard, Avi Loeb's team reviewed the equations again and again. The math didn't fit. For an object of that mass to resist solar wind pressure, it would need either magnetic shielding or an active propulsion mechanism. The first would mean it carried its own magnetic field. The second would mean it could generate controlled energy. Both were impossible, at least for anything we knew to be natural. Then came another strange discovery. The object's rotation rate appeared too stable, unaffected by sunlight or outgassing. Most comets spin unevenly, their surfaces melting and refreezing as they orbit. But Atlas rotated with mechanical precision, like a machine keeping time. Some data even suggested that its rotation slowed slightly as it approached Mars, as if responding to something. That change was small, but it was measurable and terrifying. As debates raged online, a few physicists proposed an even darker explanation. They believed that Atlas wasn't resisting solar forces at all, but harnessing them. The anti-tail, they said, could be the byproduct of a propulsion system using radiation itself as fuel. If that were true, Atlas might not just be surviving the sun, it could be using it. NASA refused to comment, but whispers from inside the Jet Propulsion Laboratory hinted at growing unease. Technicians who reviewed the flight path reportedly described it as too clean to be random. Every predicted coordinate matched within fractions of a second. No drift, no spin variation, no gravitational error. In physics, perfection rarely means nature, it means design. The implications shook the scientific world. If a body from another star could maneuver with such stability, then it wasn't merely a comet, it was a message. Its behavior was too elegant to be coincidence, too consistent to be chance. For centuries, humans believed that physics was the universal language of truth, but now, 3i Atlas was writing in a dialect no one could read. When the first orbit calculations for 3i Atlas were released, most scientists saw only numbers and trajectories. But one man, Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, saw a pattern that made his heart stop. Tracing the object's path backward through time, he realized something extraordinary. Millions of years ago, the projected trajectory of Atlas crossed a specific point in the sky at the same coordinates as the legendary WOW signal detected in 1977. For decades, the WOW signal had haunted astronomy. It was a 72-second burst of radio energy recorded by Ohio State University's Big Ear telescope. The frequency was 1420 MHz, exactly the hydrogen line, the universal frequency of interstellar communication. No natural source ever produced such a clean, narrow signal. Astronomers searched for a repeat transmission but found nothing. The origin remained a mystery, buried in scientific archives, whispered about in documentaries, dismissed by skeptics as coincidence. Now, 3i Atlas seemed to be passing through the same place in the heavens where that signal was once born. The odds of such alignment were unbelievably small, around 0.6%, according to Loeb's models. Yet the match was too perfect to ignore. If this trajectory was intentional, it might mean the WOW signal was never a message but a marker, a beacon left behind for something or someone to follow. The idea sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Was it possible that the signal had been a cosmic breadcrumb, and 3i Atlas was the traveler it pointed toward? Some dismissed the idea as wild speculation, but others found the timing impossible to overlook. The two events, separated by nearly 50 years of human time and millions of years of cosmic distance, were now connected by geometry itself. Researchers began comparing the direction of the WOW signal's source with the current position of Atlas. The match was astonishingly precise. Both pointed toward a quiet region of the constellation. Sagittarius, a patch of sky scientists have long suspected could host advanced civilizations because of its dense cluster of stars. For the first time, mathematics and myth seemed to overlap. Online forums called it the map in the stars. The name spread quickly, turning what began as a quiet academic finding into a global obsession. People imagined the universe as a giant puzzle, where ancient civilizations left signposts written in radio waves and orbital paths instead of words. What if, they asked, WOW signal was an invitation and Atlas was the response? Meanwhile, Loeb's team continued to test the data, hoping to prove or disprove the link. They analyzed parallax shifts, gravitational drift, and time dilation. Each adjustment still pointed to the same celestial coordinates. It was as if some unseen hand had drawn a straight line across history, connecting two impossible events. Skeptics argued that the alignment was coincidence, an illusion created by human pattern recognition. But even they struggled to explain how two unrelated phenomena shared not just proximity, but direction, energy, and timing. For believers, it was confirmation that we were witnessing the first trace of an interstellar dialogue, a conversation too vast for human time to comprehend. If the WOW signal was indeed a map, then 3i Atlas could be the destination. And if that's true, the question haunting every scientist became terrifyingly simple. Who left the map and who or what finally followed it? Now, as 3I Atlas disappears behind the sun, humanity waits in silence. Every telescope, every satellite, and every curious mind on Earth is focused on one question: what will emerge when it returns? In December, it will reappear from the solar glare, and with it may come the truth that changes how we see the universe. If the data confirms that its path aligns with the WOW signal, then we are not just studying an object, we are witnessing a message written across time and light. The green flash, the perfect stability, the impossible chemistry, all of it could be the universe's way of speaking to us in a language we have only begun to understand. But silence can also be an answer. Perhaps the cosmos has always been talking, and we were too distracted to listen. Whether 3I Atlas is a natural wanderer or something built with purpose, its story forces us to confront a bigger question: what if we were never truly alone? So when the sky brightens again and that mysterious traveler steps back into view, the only thing left to ask is simple. Are we ready to hear what the universe has been trying to say all along?